Infiniti sales have fallen off a cliff since 2018. However, Infiniti plans to bounce back with the recently announced QX55 coupe-like SUV, as well as the redesigned QX60. However, this isn't enough to keep them competitive in a rapidly changing electrified luxury market. With no hybrids or EVs in their current product stack, we stumble across a patent that could inject some life into this wavering Japanese luxury brand. Welcome back, Lexurious Fleet. Would you be so kind to donate a like to Infiniti today? This would help raise their spirits when they question their very existence. And if we raise enough likes, surely an Infiniti will be adopted into a loving and caring and warm family. Every new subscription to the channel is shared with the e-app or the Infiniti adoption program. Thank you so much for your generous support. Have a wonderful day, and let's get back to the regular programming. So over at CarBuzz, Infiniti's new electric cars will have something called iPower. This is breaking news. I don't know of anyone else other than CarBuzz reporting this. Of course, we'll bust out the spreadsheet to compare against the Nissan variant, the e-Power. Now, to get you up to speed on what e-Power is, because we can't have iPower without e-Power in this situation. E-Power is Nissan's hybrid technology. And looking at this Nissan diagram, this is the best way to visualize how e-Power works, and this is how iPower will work as well for Infiniti cars. You have an engine that feeds a power generator, that feeds a battery, that outputs to the inverter, which runs the electric motor, which powers the wheels, which is very different than what we see in a Toyota hybrid. And it's much more similar to an electric vehicle, except you essentially have a range extender. The battery is minuscule. Any weight that you would save from having a smaller battery is kind of made up for having the gasoline engine as well as a fuel tank on board. But you have zero range anxiety that you would have in an EV while getting the electric response, electric acceleration of instant power. There's no such thing as a perfect system, but this e-Power is much more similar to how an electric vehicle drives compared to, let's say, Toyota's hybrids. The trademark filing doesn't give any specifics on iPower, but gives a rough idea of what we can expect. It was filed on January 5th, so just a week or two ago, and it was categorized under goods and services, including the following description, which is extremely vague. I mean, it's just massive. You can think of anything with this sort of description. And I think this is the perfect time to get on the spreadsheet. If you need to grab your snacks and drinks, go ahead and do that. It's spreadsheet time. So first things first, we're going to go over the e-Power systems that we're aware of. I think there's maybe one more, but it would share with the no e-Power. And e-Power is only found in Asian markets as of right now. I believe Europe may be getting them soon. But anyways, we're not going to be seeing them in America anytime soon, unfortunately. So the first vehicle that had e-Power was the Note. Has a small 3-cylinder engine in it. It's only front-wheel drive, as well as the additional e-Powers that are currently on the market are only front-wheel drive. Now, the most recent iteration of the e-Power Note has 115 horsepower and 206 pound-feet of torque. A small, minuscule 1.5 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. And since we don't have this vehicle here, I did my best to try to extrapolate the numbers on what we would see miles per gallon here stateside, which is around 45. And then overseas, it just depends on what market you live in, etc. But 4.6 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, the Kicks e-Power just came out within the last year or so, and it shares the same as the Notes, at least when it comes to the 3-cylinder engine. Possibly slightly larger lithium-ion battery, but it has a more powerful electric motor with almost 130 horsepower and almost 200 pound-feet of torque. And again, about the same efficiency as the Note e-Power. Now, the Qashqai we don't get here in the United States, but we do get the Rogue Sport, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the same car. Are we going to get the Rogue Sport here in the United States again? Well, I would assume so, but I don't really expect an e-Power anytime soon. But it has a new 1.5 liter variable compression engine, which, if that sounds familiar, we have variable compression engines with the turbo, whether it's on the Nissan side. I believe the new Altima has the VC turbo in it, and of course a little bit higher output version in the QX50 and the QX55 upcoming. But anyways, it has almost 190 horsepower and a very healthy and girthy 220 pound-feet of torque. I don't know the battery size because this vehicle is not out yet, but it is coming, and we did get some information on it about this e-Power Qashqai this past week. And miles per gallon may be a little bit less since it's a larger vehicle, but I would expect 40 plus miles per gallon. Now, we know about the Nissan Ariya, and this is a full electric vehicle. This is not an e-Power vehicle. E-Power is only their hybrid system, their serial hybrid system. And we know the Aria can be either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. I only put the all-wheel drive model in here as a top spec model because this is what Infiniti needs to have as well. They need to have this exact same vehicle rebadged with a little bit nicer interior. You can charge 5-10 grand more, and people would be happy to have this in America as a luxury counterpart to the Aria. And I don't think many people would complain. And I think Infiniti, even if it's a low volume seller, it needs to have something like that, especially when their parent company Nissan is electrified. It's kind of frustrating, similar to how Toyota has been giving more technology with their primes and their hybrids lately to the Toyota side, and the Lexus side has been getting left in the dust to a certain degree. Well, it's even more obvious when it comes to Nissan and Infiniti. Infiniti being really the last bastion here in North America for the most part, maybe China as well, but it just doesn't have the same volume as Lexus. So if you think Lexus is getting snuffed, you can think Infiniti is even 10 times more, it feels like. And they need to have an EV to bring it at least in line with the Nissan offerings, if not a little bit more. Okay, so what about iPower? Well, we talked about ePower, we talked about the fully electric Infiniti that needs to happen, whether it's Q inspiration, QS inspiration, or QX inspiration. They're all beautiful concepts, and we haven't seen any of them come to light yet. But anyways, iPower, here we go. I say they put the 2-liter VC turbo in there. None of these naturally aspirated engines, because this is going to allow it to have a much higher electrified system compared to what we see over here. For them to differentiate themselves even further from the Nissan brand, they should focus on rear-wheel drive biased systems. So they have a larger 185 horsepower motor, which is essentially the Qashqai's motor, but you have that in the rear instead of the front, and you have a smaller lower output motor in the front, similar to the Note e-Power's output, and that is combined 300 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque of instant electric power. And let's say you have a little bit larger 3 kilowatt-hour battery, maybe a little bit larger. It's hard to tell. But again, you would have really good fuel efficiency, around 40 miles per gallon. It would be all-wheel drive. It would be rear-wheel drive bias. And there's no such thing as range anxiety because it's running on gasoline all the time, even though it's electrically driven. Now, I don't think they should stop there. I think they go one step further, put a larger battery pack in it, go from like a 3 kilowatt-hour battery pack to a 20 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and you make it a plug-in hybrid. I don't know what you call it, iPower Plus. Everything is roughly the same, except since you have more electrification on board, especially at full charge with this larger battery pack, you could get a fully electric vehicle's power output. You could get similar numbers to the Aria's top performance spec, except you flip-flop the motors. That would be ideal, where it's more rear-wheel drive bias, so you still have roughly the 390 horsepower, but the bias is towards the rear with over 230 horsepower to the rear wheels would be amazing. Plug-in hybrid, 40 miles of EV range, 40 miles per gallon. The vehicle would be definitely heavier than the standard iPower, but you get more of the electrified experience, more power, and also full electric range up to around 40 miles. And guys, I'm sure you have wonderful ideas and visions for Infiniti as well. It's not going to be easy for them in the coming years. I can foresee a lot of dealerships closing. Unfortunately, with the just drop off in sales in 2 years, it's about half the amount of sales that they had in 2018 and 2017 is that they had in 2020. And that's just not sustainable. What's it going to be in 2021? Is it going to plateau or is it going to drop even more? It's really hard to say. They need to have new products out as soon as possible based off those gorgeous concepts, the inspiration concepts, and we just haven't seen them, unfortunately. We know the QX55 is coming out, but that's a vehicle no one's going to be that interested in, even though it looks really good. It still has a CVT in it. The QX60 is traditionally their best-selling vehicle, but that vehicle sales have just fallen off a cliff because it's so old and outdated. But if it looks as good as it does in the monograph form, and it comes with this VC turbo iPower with 300 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque of instant power. Holy cow, guys, people would be really excited about Infiniti again. Unfortunately, we don't exactly know what we're getting with the QX60. I think a lot of us would be happy with twin-turbo V6s that we see in the upcoming Nissan 400Z or whatever they call it, that we also see in the Q50 Red Sport, Q60 Red Sports. That would be amazing and much welcome in a QX60 redesign. This would be welcome as well with this fully electric driven car, but with the cooperation of gasoline. So I know it's pretty complex. Turbos, hybrids, electrics, all kind of mixed together, but I think this is a stopgap until we can have a more sustainable and more energy dense battery pack. And one more thing before I let you guys go, since we've been talking so much about electrification, you guys know I also talk about Korean vehicles. Kia has just teased a completely fully electric fleet of vehicles. And this I was not expecting. So let's see what they have to say. Corporate name changed from Kia Motors to Kia. Big whoop. 7 new dedicated electric vehicles to launch by 2027. That's essentially 1 new electric vehicle per year starting this year. That is pretty exciting, and I feel like the Ioniq brand could be eclipsed by its own Kia sibling. Kia's first dedicated battery electric vehicle with new design philosophy based off the eGMP platform to be revealed soon. I would expect it to be revealed shortly after we get the reveal of the Ioniq 5. And it will be essentially a clone of the Ioniq 5 with Kia styling. Heading over to Motor One, they have some additional images than what I saw on the actual Korea press release, or sorry, the Kia press release. And this is the vehicle that we're expecting to be kind of like the clone of the Ioniq 5. A lot more curvier in stature, more swoopy, more elegant compared to the more robotic and 80s retro themed Ioniq 5. I'm excited for it. Of course, it'll have rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive capabilities. Next image is of essentially a Telluride, but fully electric. So that will be coming in the coming years, which is no surprise because we know the Ioniq 7, which we know is going to be coming in about 2 to 3 years from now, is going to be the same vehicle, just different cladding. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. Are you excited for all these new EVs coming from Kia? I think it's exciting. To me, the most interesting piece is how does Kia's EV ecosystem thrive and succeed alongside Hyundai's Ioniq brand, as well as the Genesis electric vehicles. They're all going to be super similar. Genesis, in my opinion, needs to have higher output versions of them. Of course, they'll have nicer interiors, but time will tell how it all shakes out for the electrification. And Infiniti. Make sure to throw a like button, donate a like button for suffering Infiniti. I just don't know how successful they're going to be in the coming months, years, etc. I wish them the best. It would be really, really sad to see them just fade into memory. But guys, I'll see you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're not for more Japanese, Korean, and a little bit of electric news here and there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.